Hi everyone, welcome to Entre-Elles. I'm your host, Tombeni Kouloufoua, and this podcast is a platform for women of the world to tell their professional success stories. Twice a month, I interview a woman who shares her professional journey and her personal goals. Whether she lives in Abidjan, Accra, London, Paris, or San Francisco, her human experience is universal. In this podcast, you'll hear about ambition, perseverance, hard work, dedication, challenges, but also soul-searching and purpose. If you'd like to support Entre-Elles, I would ask you to please leave a 5-star rating and a comment on Apple Podcasts. It will make a huge difference for this platform. Now, let's talk about episode 25. This week, I'm joined by Amma Gyampo, co-founder of ScaleUp Africa in Accra, Ghana. ScaleUp Africa is a B2B entrepreneurship development and corporate innovation advisory firm. Amma is also a founding member of Impact Investing Ghana, Ghana's national advisory task force on impact investment, charged with providing practical leadership to Ghana and the West Africa region. Before inviting you to listen to our conversation, I'd like to give you some elements of vocabulary, just in case you're not familiar with the wording that was used in this episode. SMEs refer to small and medium-sized enterprises. When we talk about VC funding, we're talking about venture capital fund, which is a type of investment fund that invests in early-stage startup companies that offer a high return potential, but also come with a high degree of risk. I should also mention that this episode was recorded last summer as we made a reference to a conference that had just been organized by ScaleUp Africa. This is my conversation with Amma, recorded remotely between London and Accra. Hi Amma, welcome to Entre-Elles.
Thank you very much for having me, Tombani.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very pleased to have you on today and talk about ScaleUp Africa, the company you co-founded to help and support corporations across Africa. But first, let's talk about you. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
Born and bred in the UK, in London to be precise, and I spent a lot of my teenage years in Ghana, just, getting to know the culture and having a bit of diversity in my upbringing. And fast forward several years, moved back to the UK and then back to Ghana about almost 10 years ago to work on the entrepreneurship and innovation scene for youth and women's economic empowerment.
So growing up between these two cultures, did you have a view already of what you wanted to do with your life? Did you know that you wanted to sort of work in between these two environments or move back to Ghana? Was that always a project or did that come, as you matured and grew up?
Yeah, spending my teenage years in Ghana and spending all of my adult life in the UK for over 20 years, it was never the plan to come back to Ghana beyond the sort of high school stage. But, having a young family and, just wanting them to have the rich experience that I had growing up, the family decided to just, switch things up and move back. And also because of the immense opportunity that Africa presents, for people like us who are from the diaspora predominantly, but, who have a lot to offer and to give as privileged as we are to have the exposure of, being abroad for so long. I just felt a bit of a calling really to come back and do some more meaningful work beyond, I was a program manager. My background was in law, but, I was working with big companies like BlackBerry, Vodafone as a contractor, and implementing, communications, marketing and IT projects. But, day to day didn't really feel very fulfilling. So I think Africa was tapping me very hard on the shoulder to come back and do some exciting things.
There seems to be a clear coherence between everything that you've done. From that time, your work has been centered around impact investing in Ghana, supporting SMEs, with several experiences and projects that led you to ScaleUp Africa today. Would you say that that's accurate?
Yeah, that's right.
So let's spend a bit of time on the why. So why does development in Africa require a strong support of SMEs? And before I let you respond, I'll just include some general information into the mix. Africa has an estimated population of more than 1.3 billion people that's growing at over 2% annually in most countries, with more than 50% of the people in many countries below the age of 25. I'll let you respond on SMEs and why it's important to support them.
Yes, I mean, Africa has predominantly relied on the public sector to create government jobs, and there are no jobs. I mean, I think it's more than 12 million graduates enter the job market across Africa every year. I think that I'm sure the figure's higher than that. So it's a staggering amount of, talent that we have. As you mentioned, we have a huge youth population. So it's really about the fact that SMEs, especially, women-led SMEs, which make up 50% of the SME enterprise population. And I think Ghana actually has the highest rate of female participation in the entrepreneurship space globally, according to some reports. It's just the fact that, SMEs in Africa and across the world are really the engine of growth. And with everything that's happened with COVID, especially, we've seen a dry up of investment in terms of international development funding into the space. And so it just falls upon us to do more to build the capacity of micro and small enterprises, which are predominantly led by women. And we know that when we invest in women, a lot of money goes down into the communities, and that's where development in the real economy happens. And so for us, that is very much our why and our mission, to really do more to scale and grow more youth and women-led businesses in the micro and small sector in particular, and to really boost sustainable development outcomes through these projects and programs that we run. I mean, we work with a lot of corporations, foundations, development partners, and philanthropists to make sure that we improve outcomes and prospects for women and youth through education, skills, capacity building, and other support initiatives to just boost SMEs and entrepreneurship in the continent and in the diaspora.
So SMEs account for 90% of all businesses in Africa. One issue that is often discussed, mentioned, talked about is the financing issue. The interesting thing with what you're doing with ScaleUp Africa is that you're not only assisting on that front, right? There's a lot more that needs support. Can you tell us what Scale Africa does for corporations?
So ScaleUp Africa works with a network of corporations, foundations, and development partners and philanthropists to really look at resourcing some of the other gaps beyond financial. So we're talking about skills, we're talking about the new economy, we're talking about digital literacy and even basic literacy and numeracy. So these are all gaps in the space, and of course things like access to market is a huge challenge for many SMEs. In the agri sector alone, we know we have a massive problem with post-harvest losses. People are unable to get their produce to the marketplace. So we're talking about things like cold chain. We're talking about stuff like mechanization. We're talking about stuff like digital services for micro level farmers and agribusinesses to know that the weather will be doing a certain thing, and so the information they get from the mobile phone will enable them to plant at the right time or get better market pricing information so that they make more profit, from their output. So the digital and innovation side of things is a huge piece of the puzzle. And of course, the capacity building, the training that comes with, being more productive. I keep saying, Africa can do a lot better than what it's doing in terms of productivity. Globally, we're not so productive. So yes, we have a lot of artisans and we have the artisanal culture of making things with our hands. We are not a mass producer like China, and that's fine. There is a growing demand for, the things that we make and the culture and the heritage of Africa, which is, I think, a niche that we should dominate and examine very closely. There's a growing demand in the global export market for creative goods that come from artisans in Africa and, of course, Asia and South America, but the sector continues to underperform, right? There's a lot of issues around, social factors that limit incomes and profits and outcomes for women. There's a lot of fragmentation. There are a lot of middlemen. So all of these things exclude women in particular, but SMEs generally from really fulfilling their full potential. And so that's really where we try and come in to build programs and advise corporations and foundations and larger organizations with the resources internationally to draw their attention to the fact that we need to improve our profitability and productivity, strengthening our supply chains, strengthening the skills and the quality elements of what we produce. And that means a lot of interventions in regards to training and quality management and business skills and all those, even the use of the mobile phone to do more than just make calls. A lot of people don't know how to access information through the mobile phone. So that limits them from things like, getting credit from their mobile money operators to enable them to buy raw materials to then, do their business, go about their business day to day. And the fact that we are implementing programs like, that intervene at that level, it means that we are able to kind of make a difference in terms of outcomes and enabling people to go about their day-to-day business in a more profitable and productive way.
So in terms of needs, be it digital assistance, technology improvement, adopting new ways of working, etc. Do you see one sector in particular or a couple of sectors attracting more interest at the moment?
I mean, definitely agriculture is one, because obviously we produce so much food that actually goes to waste. So we import far too much in Africa. So, COVID taught us one thing, if anything, we need to be more self-reliant and reduce our reliance on imports. So, food security is also a major challenge. Climate change is real. It's affecting productivity of food. Actors in the northern parts of the country, of the continent in particular, because of the Sahara and the desertification. So obviously, there's huge opportunities for things like, solar powered pumps, green technologies, like I said, mechanization, anything to do with agri and food production. I think it's a really a no-brainer. It's a low-hanging fruit that we can all get behind and really tackle in a holistic way with all the current actors in the space. We have a lot of local knowledge and local expertise, so we need to really leverage those with the resources required to mobilize ambitious programs and projects and hubs, in the real sense of the word, not just, in a nice air-conditioned office in Accra or Lagos or Kigali, but, out there on the field where people, the majority of people are, and show them that, you can do your farming, you can ride your tractor, you can have your drones plant across a huge, vast lands, and access information through your mobile phone to make sure that you are doing the right things at the right time to make sure that you're most productive at the end of the harvest cycle, and then that will enable you to boost your livelihoods and product profitability as well. So agri is definitely one. Of course, we have a lot of artisans. We have the service industry in terms of tourism. All these things, the soft skills training is a huge issue. Customer service, how to position yourself as a SME. All these things. Digital marketing, e-commerce, these are all areas that impact the service economy in particular. And again, all of these areas have a high percentage of women involved in these areas. So there's quite a lot of need across the board, but I would say green, agri, and then the service sectors would be the top three.
Is ScaleUp Africa focusing on women in particular because women are the biggest proportion of SMEs founders at the moment, or is the idea that that you are offering your service to any type of SMEs? What's the angle there?
Our angle is really a focus on women. We are very gender intentional. My co-founder and I are both women, and so obviously, we know that again, the multiplier effect of investing in women is well known. Whether you're talking about the boardroom or at the grassroots micro level, once you invest in women, your return on investment is a lot greater. So whether you're a foundation investing in ecosystem building, or advisory firms like ours, or if you're a corporation or foundation that has an interest in making an impact in terms of your environmental, social, and governance activities, or your CSR activities, we feel it makes a lot of sense in terms of the impact and the return, financially and non-financially, to invest in women. So that's very much the space we are operating in. But we are not exclusive to women. We are focused generically on women and youth. And of course, Africa is a very young continent, so it's a massive opportunity.
Earlier this month, you organized the Access Bank ScaleUp Africa Pan-African Women's Conference. So for those who don't know, Access Bank is a Nigerian multinational commercial bank owned by Access Bank Group and Africa's leading bank by customer base. You had a number of high-profile guests on the conference, and the theme was Choose to Challenge. Can you tell us a bit about the conference?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we like you say, like we've been saying today, we're very focused on helping women in all aspects of their lives. And it's not just about money. It's really about support and really understanding where they are, their environment, and making sure that we can actually tackle some of the root causes of the issues. Of course, with COVID in particular, things have exacerbated, like, sexual and gender-based violence, extreme poverty. There's been a huge impact on women having to leave the workforce because their children have been home or locked down. And so with that in mind, we shared a lot of things in common with Access Bank, and they asked us to support them in reaching more women across the continent to obviously, highlight the work they've been doing with their W initiative, which is celebrating the 6th anniversary this year. And also for us to really curate and convene a powerful and dynamic, successful lineup of business women from across the continent to inspire a new generation of women to overcome some of the societal and cultural barriers they face on a day-to-day basis. So it's really for us to just showcase some of the things that these women have been doing across the continent, and to really embrace innovation and growth for others' businesses, for those who were able to join us, of which we had 1,500 registered to attend and take part of the conference.
Yeah, and some of the issues that were mentioned, as you say, the fact that many women have had to quit the workforce during the pandemic, gender-based violence, the very few resources available for women entrepreneurs, but that's unfortunately that's not even an Africa issue, right?
Correct.
If you look at VC funds going to female founders, it's always much lower. I think the number was 2% or something around 2%.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so that's something that really needs to be tackled at all levels. We were talking about the continent, so obviously you're based in Accra. How do you work with other regions? Are you at the moment focusing more on Ghana, but also understanding that there's a commonality of issues between all the women on the continent, or what's your approach in terms of working on the continent as a whole?
I mean, we are ScaleUp Africa, so we work primarily from Ghana, of course. We have a very regional focus, so we have a lot of partners and beneficiary groups across the West Africa region, so Mali in particular, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria. So from us helping people to prepare for investment and getting them ready to absorb investment from investors and liaising with investors, to organizing something like the Access Bank Pan-African Women's Conference to kind of do more of the advocacy and the outreach, and just letting people know that we have specific services available. We have the one event which is coming up, as an Afrobyte is hosting their 5th edition of the African ecosystem technology segment. And so, we're very Africa focused in some of those things in terms of communications and our participation in ecosystem building and events like that. But our home base is obviously West Africa.
Why are you nicknamed the matchmaker?
Well, I mean, I'm always I'm a bit of a go-between. So it's really the fact that I'm in the middle, and it's not really anything special. It's just the fact that I link up SMEs to investors. I link up investors to SMEs. I recommend. I match. Yeah, I matchmake. I facilitate deals and relationships, and so that's probably where that came from. I think it's just the fact that I've been over the past few years a bit of a walking connector in terms of the space, so that's why.
Right. So in a professional capacity, right?
Yeah. Oh yes. Not relationships. I don't do relationships, no, because when they go wrong, they go really wrong.
I was joking. You gave a TED talk during the pandemic on TEDx Accra, and you touched on, obviously these issues that we've just talked about. And you said some very powerful things. One of them was that we need to reimagine the way we do development, and that we need to have a more connected development. Can you talk a bit about that, about what you mean in particular on that point?
Yeah, so connected development is really about the fact that, a lot of the resources that fly around go to consultancies and massive companies in the northern hemisphere, in the name of Africa, in the name of Asia, and all these developing nations in the global south. So the idea is that, it's a little bit imperialist, it's a bit of a neo-colonial approach to development, and it's not worked for us. If you look at what's been happening, we're still talking about developing Africa, and it's not really worked. I mean, there are a lot of advisory firms like ours and experts and, solutions providers and innovation, providers that come from the global south, come from Africa. They've built solutions because, they spent years connecting with communities and people and understanding, what works, what doesn't work. And so the idea of connected development is to have that respect for those in the global south doing the work on the ground to make a difference and to really tackle the root causes of the lack of development. And I know everyone talks about the politicians and the leaders in the political sense, but we can also do a lot from the bottom up, and I think that's where our approach should focus on building the capacity of more people and experts and matchmakers, intermediaries, investors, advisors from the global south, and not just throw grants around, or just talk about grants for the sake of giving grants around, but the idea is that more of the DFIs, the development finance institutions, and the foundations that are up in the north should be very intentional about diversifying those that get the funding for international development projects, and that means we need to go beyond grants. And we've actually just launched a campaign called #BeyondGrants to just highlight the issue, and it's really to advocate for more of our colleagues holding the purse strings to have a more connected approach and a more consultative approach, and to really put their money where their mouths are, to enable us to build our capacity and kind of deliver on very ambitious and maybe sometimes experimental, as in non-traditional solutions to our development needs.
Ghana has attracted several large digital corporations, the latest one being Twitter, which is very positive for Ghana, right? What do you think the country is doing right at the moment? And the reason I'm asking the question that way is because a lot of large Francophone economies lately have seen their education system being downgraded, in rankings across Africa, etc. We could talk about the language and say, that these are American companies and that English is the main language, etc. But I'm just wondering if you have a view on what Ghana is doing right at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Ghana enjoys a bit of a reputation as a very stable country in the region. And so as a regional hub, it just makes total sense. I think, I know Twitter cited things like free speech and online freedom and open internet as some of the factors behind their decision. But I mean, all of these do matter. Like, there's a lot of issues in Nigeria, for example, and we had a bit of a reawakening of the Jollof Wars when Twitter decided to establish in Ghana, and Nigeria was like, oh, why did they choose Ghana? What's the big idea? But the issue is obviously there's a lot of insecurity in Nigeria at the moment, kidnappings and whatnot. And so I think these are all, yes, we're a smaller country, we're much smaller population, but I think in terms of the environment for doing business, the ease of doing business, the energy situation, the regulatory situation. I think Ghana just made sense as the David and the Goliath story. I wanted to add also that Ghana has a very rich and diverse ecosystem in terms of technology players, hubs, accelerators, service providers like us at ScaleUp Africa. It has a very rich tech ecosystem. And so again, I think it made a lot of sense. I mean, normally we talk about, Kigali and, Lagos and other places in the continent, but Accra and Ghana generally across the country has a very active hubs network and ecosystem. So I think that also had a factor to play.
So in practice, if I'm a woman and I've started my business and I need support, how do I approach ScaleUp Africa? Do I attend workshops? How does that work in practice?
Yeah, I mean, we don't, at the moment, we're not dealing directly with, SMEs that approach us per se. We do provide business services like, talent management, employer branding for SMEs to create employer brands. We have, a legal team, we have a financial team, accounting team. So we offer those kinds of services for SME clients. In terms of, free resources, we have, like I said, I mentioned partnerships with corporations and foundations like Access Bank, like MasterCard Foundation. So, for example, with the MasterCard Foundation project that we are running, which is a 2-year program in response to COVID-19 and the need for resilience and recovery, ScaleUp Africa, along with Pixera Global and other partners, are rolling out various packages of support to SMEs. So SMEs can actually apply to that program. And it's called the COVID Resilience and Recovery Program. So if you Google that, you'll find the information. Then you can submit your information into the database, and then we will reach out to you about our training programs, our personalized services for SMEs, and you can get involved in those kinds of things. So once we are very vocal on social media online. So anything that we publish SMEs can get involved. And of course, we work with our network of partners and communities, cooperatives and business associations to deliver specific services to them that way. So that's how we work.
I usually ask the question of what is your vision for your company, but because your company is so tied up to Africa, I will ask you a double question there. What's your vision for the continent, and what's your vision for ScaleUp Africa?
Well, that's a big one, isn't it? I mean, it's really to provide more opportunities for everyone across the continent. Women and youth, through entrepreneurship, enterprise education, skills development around the new economy and the fourth industrial revolution. Building the productivity and outlook for Africans everywhere. So whether they're in the diaspora or on the continent, we just need to get better at really building a strategic vision for Africa, and that means a lot of interventions like this, in partnership with our friends and past colonial masters. That's where it is. We've got to get real about where the capital is and where the capital flows from, but it's really about being more of an active participant in suggesting ideas and new social business models that can create a sustainable environment for our entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem. So it's not just about grants, like I said. It's just about really talking to the right people around the table to design and implement really ambitious development projects and providing opportunities for Africans everywhere.
Thank you to Amma Gyampo for a very insightful and straightforward conversation. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to check out the amazing work that ScaleUp Africa is doing. See you in 2 weeks for a new episode in French. Bye!